Well, hello there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the code now to the load filtered before list and load filter after list. But what I'm going to do is, for those of you who are in class, you already have these functions. If you don't worry about it. You're going to I'm going to use these two functions in order to create the final product, which is just going to be called load filtered list. So for the time being, I want to preserve both of these. Okay, I'm going to preserve both of these functions for right now. I'm just going to take one of them and I'm going to copy the whole thing because it has the basic structure of what I need. And right after these two, I'll go ahead and I'll paste it. And this is going to be the load filtered list. Filters the list to find all birthdays before or after the entered birthday. Okay, so I'm going to take out the word before here. This is just going to be load filtered list. So this is a new function. And we're going to add a new parameter right here at the beginning, and this one's going to be called before or after. This might be a kind of a familiar variable. I used that parameter in the random birth date function so that I would know whether I was looking for a birthday before or a birthday after. And depending on, whether it was before or after, I changed what I put into my string in the output field. Also changed which list, because this one gets a passed list. A list gets passed to it. Whether it's the before list or the after list, it doesn't really matter. Either list gets passed. And this is going to indicate whether it was before or after. We're going to do something here. This is going to help us make a decision whether we go down one path or we go down a different path. So let's see. Load filtered list filters the list to find all birthdays before or after the entered birthday. Okay, good. So now I'm going to try to traverse the list to get all birthdays so I need to traverse. So I'm not going to be getting all of the birthdays before. I'm just going to be getting all the birthdays by year. And then I'm going to traverse month and day. So I've got my for loop right here set up. And I'm going to rearrange how I get some of these things. For instance, our var current birthday day list. I'm going to pull that right out of there. Getting the ith birthday. I'm going to cut that. And right here in our for loop, as soon as our for loop starts, in fact, it's month day. I'll paste that right in there. That's getting our ith birthday. And let's see. Here we got our ith year. And I need to get the ith month. Current birth month. There it is. Get the ith month. So I'm going to peel that out of there. Cut that from there. And right here at the beginning, paste it. Now here, I'm getting the ith month, the ith day, and the ith year. So I'm getting them all first. As I'm going through the for loop, for each value of I, before I do anything with this data, I go grab all of the elements from the lists that I'm going to need to use as I go through this process. Then we're going to check to see, we're going to handle when before is passed. All right. So if before got passed in here, then I would be looking for if a current birth year was before the past birth year. So all that code worked really nice. So actually, I need to actually build something here over all of this. So I have to have an if statement here. And if my before or after if that's equal to the string before, got to open curly brace. And now I have to be careful. I have to look here. this if statement goes all the way down past this else if. And so from this if statement right there down to the end of the else if, this curly bracket right here on line 243 is the end of the for loop. I want to tab all of that over. Right after that curly brace on line 242 that got tabbed over, I'm going to tab over and I'm going to put another curly brace in. That's going to close that if right there. This if, see the little rubber band going down to that curly brace? Now all of this code will only execute if before or after equals before. And so if before or after equals before, then we're going to look at our current birth year. If it's less than the birth year, we add that item to the before list in the ith location. Otherwise, if the current birth year is equal to the past birth year, see, all this code is going to still work. I could take that space out right there. I used to be getting a variable there. Let's see. I could capitalize that F in my comment. Find the birth months before the entered birth month. So if my years are equal to each other, then we'll look here. Is my current birth month less than my past birth month? Remember, we got current birth month right up here. We're loading all three of these variables right off the bat for each time we go through the for loop. That way, as we get into the if statements and the else if and the else if we get into any of these statements, we already have the information we need. Okay, so that works for, okay, but now what if for the same month, we need to be looking at the day? Let me take out that space. Again, right in there was where, again, I was getting a variable, current birthday. It used to be inside that else if. And then if the current birthday is less than the past birthday, then, okay, yeah, it's before, I append it. All right, so all that works good. Now, I still want to stay inside of the for loop for this next half. So I'm looking at this rubber band right here. It starts like from line 211. You can see where on line 212, this little rubber band goes all the way down. That little rubber band marks the end of the for loop. So one line up, line 241. I'm going to hit my enter key and just set up a comment and a space. Right here, we're going to handle, when we spell handle right, the case where we handle after. Okay, so before we handle when before is passed, now we're going to handle after. I'll pop another space in here. Now, what am I going to put right there? Well, let's see. I've already taken care of this. Before is handled. So I can actually go and take all of that. Lines 134 to 167, the entire load filtered before list. I can delete that whole thing. It's gone. Now, let me take out the unnecessary spaces. Now, looking at after. In the after part here, I'm going to ignore the for loop. That's the part I don't need. I don't need that. Getting the ith month, I can pull that out of there and take out that space. Getting the ith day, I can pull that out of there and take out the space. Don't take out the curly brace. That'll break things really bad. And let's see here. I don't need, the birth years. I don't need that. But let's see. Check if the year is after. Yeah, here we go. So at this point, either, the way our code's written, either before or after is before, or before or after is after. So I can handle this down here with an else, because there's only one other possibility the way that my program is set up. Now inside this else, that's where I'm going to grab this code go all the way down. Now this is from this if to this else if. This else if ends right there. I'm going to copy that whole block. I'll just cut it, in fact. I'm going to cut it right out. I'm going to come down here and right inside this else, I'm going to paste it. Now, I might have to adjust the indentation. So I'm going to have to indent that over, and I'm going to have to move those over in order to get my curly braces all right here. In fact, I'm going to take all the rest of this all the way down to the end of the else if. I'm just going to tab all of it over. Now it's all the tabbing is repaired, the tabbing is fixed, and let's see here. I've already, yep, and I did. I removed those lines, I didn't include them. Now I can delete this load filtered after. I can just delete that whole thing. I'm done with that. Now I've got my new function, load filter before after, but there's a problem. It's not called in my program. That's because I still have to fix my function calls up at the top. But I don't have any other warnings other than that. So now, in the on event for birthday after, instead of calling load filtered list after, load filtered after list, I'm just going to call load filtered list, and I'm going to send the string after. And then I broke something big time. Unclosed string. Well, there we go. Look at all that red. Oh my gosh. All right. So that's cool. Then down here in the birthdays before link, again, I'm not going to be calling the load filter before list because it doesn't exist anymore. I've deleted it. And the string I'm going to send here is going to be before. This time I got my closing parenthesis. Now, if I scroll through this, I'll see here that I've got no more errors in my code. And granted, my new load filtered list function, it basically has, a big block that was the before function. It has a block that was the after function. And the difference between the two halves is the comparison operators here are all greater than, where over here the comparison operators are all less than. And if I put more thought into this, I might even be able to turn all that into a function call too with parameters. But I'll put a little more thought into that. But I've eliminated two functions, collapsed them into one function, and I'm using parameters in order to move all that stuff around. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is handling leap years. So if you did the lesson where I did the verify date function, and the one in the video, I handled 31-day months, 30-day months, and February. And this little bit right here, I went online and I checked some things for the rules for policemen. So rules for leap year. A leap year is a leap year if it is divisible by 4, but not always true. A leap year is not a leap year if it is divisible by 100, unless it is also divisible by 400. So those facts. Using those facts, I added just a little bit more code to my code here, which is another double and ampersand statement. And then I need to put this inside parentheses because I only want, because it's got to be true for me to get a birthday limit of 29 days, a leap year. It's got to be divisible by 4. That's got to be true. And it's got to be divisible by 400. But if it's also divisible by 100, then that's going to always get me a false right here. If it's divisible by 100, pardon me, it's going to get me a true if it's divisible by 100. But getting a true for divisible by 100, and if it's not divisible by 400, we're going to get false. So I'm going to get true and false, which inside the parentheses here will make false. And then with that and operator, even if that's true and false, it's still going to be false. It's still going to default to 28-day limit. So that's just a little bit of extra code I had to add in order to handle leap years. Not that it matters at all for this program because, as we've already stated in this program, all of our birth dates we're looking at are between 2004 and 2008, which means 05, 06, and 07. None of those years were leap years, so nothing to worry about on those. But I want my code to be accurate. So if I change the limits on the years, I want the code to work. This is what good programmers do. They anticipate future possible problems and make sure that the problems are addressed in code before you even produce. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the load filtered list function now, where I've eliminated the load filter before list and load filter after list functions, collapsed them all into one function by taking advantage of this new string variable I send called before or after. Thanks for viewing. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.